Welcome to What's the Dumbest Thing podcast. I'm your host, Mike Hainsworth. So normally we have someone in the seat opposite answering questions, putting forward their ideas and thoughts on some of the dumbest things that they've seen in relation to cybersecurity. We've had a bit of a challenge recently in getting those shy, retiring types from the tech community to come along and talk to the camera. So if you fancy sitting in that seat, then do let us know, perhaps comment, send us a message. But today we're going to talk about, or we're going to touch upon a subject that some might find politically charged. But we're not really interested in the socio-political impact or that it may or may not have. We're only really interested in the idea relative to cybersecurity. Indeed, you might find this old news, but it's still an interesting topic as it does illustrate how any organisation should consider their data and their cybersecurity position. So that subject is digital ID, mandatory or voluntary. It's kind of irrelevant. Is it safe to do anything like that in today's cybersecurity landscape? If we wanted to make this podcast really short, then I'll probably answer that question with no. It's the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Putting everybody's data into one big digital pot. I mean, are you mad? But let's try and have a look at this from a non-political and unemotional viewpoint. What are the benefits does digital ID bring to us? And the only one that I've heard is based upon the UK job situation of migrant workers. Now, I've not heard or seen anything else. And perhaps that is actually to do more with the social algorithms or the algorithms on my social media than anything else. But what are the risks to the citizens of the UK in bringing on board such a thing? And I mean, we just have to think about your data. So NHS records, national insurance, HMRC records, employment, universal credit, DVLA, passport, birth certificates, land registry, company's house data, police records, and so on and so on and so on. Right? There must be more. And I'm sure, those can all be added. But all that information about you under one roof, in one pool of accessible data, I mean, if you ever wanted to create the ultimate honey trap for a cyber criminal, then that would be the mother lode, right? So when we talk to businesses about protecting their data, even more, or building even more robust, I should say, security than they already have, we have to start from the position of nothing is 100%. Now, the old school argument to that would be, well, death and taxes. True. To which I would say now, we've entered the information age, it's death, taxes, and data breaches. They're the only things that you can rely on actually happening. Why is it that you can't make anything 100% cyber secure? I mean, for the same reason, actually, that you can't make anything 100% secure. If there is a will, there is a way. Which means then that you can only do as much as you can and then hope that whoever is looking to breach your security finds a softer target elsewhere. So, however, within the cybersecurity space, there are a number of factors at play. I'm not going to list all of them, but just for instance, state-sponsored threat actors. To be honest, I think everyone is at it. And I certainly doubt that we've got a spotless record. Cybercrime consistently, right, is the third largest global economy. I mean, just think about that. It generates revenues only slightly lower than the United States of America and China, which means it generates revenues higher than Japan, India, Germany. I mean, we're talking about GDP here, right? Also, it's an arm's length crime. So there are plenty of examples where physical security is vital to preventing cybercrime, but it can also work from the other side of the world. The weakest point in any organisation tends to be the people who operate within it. And then supply chain. Weaknesses there are opens and holes in security that aren't even considered. So just those points alone, any one of those would be enough to be worried about. But if you add them together, right, and you compound the effects behind an attack, and you have a very powerful threat to a database of, 60 million people in the United Kingdom. Let's just look at the NHS alone. Over the past, 5, 6, 7 years, something like that, there have been a number of breaches, all of which have reached national news. And I'm not even going to list them all now. But if we simply look at Synovis ransomware attack, it was June 2024. That was a severe attack. The disruption lasted for months. I'm trying to remember the numbers. Over 11,000 appointments were delayed or cancelled. Pathology services were operating at 10% for a good period of time. The full recovery took months. GPs, doctors, for instance, only went back to normal in September. Happened in June, went back in September. The investigation to the breach itself actually took over a year. It was 400 gigs of patient and staff data that was published on the dark web in June of 24 because they refused to pay the £40 million ransom. So one argument of pooling all data, might be if we have it all in one place, we can set sufficient security measures to maintain the high standards of cybersecurity for all NHS trusts and departments and so on and so on and so on. To date, though, ever since the early 2000s, not one project to kind of pool all our NHS data and have one working system has worked. The UK has spent around about 16 billion pounds on various projects that have all failed. So what's more, they're doing it again with the single patient record. And that's currently in a test and learn phase. And that's not actually due to be in play until 2028. There's also, last time I checked, there was no cost announced or associated with the project. So that aside, let's assume it is a technical success. Where would the weaknesses be? And most likely those will be either the people operating the system or in fact the supply chain. So for instance, post-it notes with passwords on them, or indeed social engineering attacks, those risks. If we look at, for instance, Marks & Spencer's and the Co-op breaches which happened in 2025, their systems were compromised not by themselves but by Tata consultancy services who were part of their supply chain. So we're only really just touching the surface here. We're not really going into too much detail or how transparency would be achieved. If data is siloed, the argument is it's safe. If it's linked, well, it's networked, and then thus it's open to compromise. So how do you determine access? To what extent? The more people you have who have access, the weaker the security is. So what about training? So on and so forth. Because we're not just talking about the NHS here with a digital ID. There are around about 6 million people employed by the UK government, in the actual NHS, the armed forces, the civil service, local government, education, so on and so forth. The list goes on. That equates to around about 20% of the working population of the UK. So how many of those will have access to a digital ID system? And to what level? We'll make sure it's really secure. Okay. How are you going to do that? As a business, you'll know about cyber security, the Cyber Security and Resilience Bill that's due to come in this year, or indeed UK GDPR regulations. Either of those will warrant potential fines, well in fact GDPR does already, for data breaches. So that's effectively the government monitoring businesses and finding them on data breaches. So that's them looking at us already. Who's monitoring the government? Who's going to monitor them in them holding our data? But I guess, why is that really of any importance to you? An owner of a business or a decision maker for cybersecurity spend? What is it that you want to protect? Is it reputation, data, money? The size of your organisation and the decisions that you will make have no correlation, other than the organisation, or the larger the organisation is, the more zeros that will go at the end of the investment. You'll still have to decide what is important, how do you want to protect it, and what you're willing to invest to ensure that that happens. So we already work with organisations, from charities to private companies, from under 10 people in a team to teams of 4,000 plus employees. And they're all the same, actually. So they all want protection and certainty in a dangerous and uncertain world. And they want to deliver the services that they are focused on and not spend tons of time deliberating on how to protect themselves against known and unknown threats. So why is digital ID a bad idea or a dumb idea? I mean, all your eggs in one basket, nothing is 100% other than death, taxes and data breaches. So why is that important to you running your organisation, generally speaking? You do have all your eggs in one basket. So you want to ensure that the security that you already have can be made even more secure. Thank you very much for listening. This has been something of a rant. And if you want to come on and talk, do let us know. Click on the buttons. If you have some questions, hit the comment button. If you want to like and subscribe, then we'll be able to let you know when the next post is coming or has arrived. And if you're interested in reading on the subject of cybersecurity, then we have a catalogue of newsletters and we publish one every month. Again, thanks for listening. This has been What's the Dumbest Thing podcast. Enjoy.